singers, pianists. She was a pianist. She was a classical pianist who was part of the Abby Whiteside lineage of piano playing. It was a whole approach. She was Fred Hirsch's teacher. Brad Mehldau studied with her. Aaron Parks, Ben Street, certain bass players. Everybody, Ethan Iverson. People would go and study with her, and she would. There would be all kinds of things that were not musical, not supposedly not. It didn't seem like a music lesson, right? To somebody looking in, you realized that there were much deeper things about the body that she was trying to teach, and how she would always say we play the piano with our whole body, and then she would say we make music from the center to the periphery. The tail doesn't wag the dog, right? Like there's something inside us, right? That is, she would call it the emotional rhythm. And so we have this music that's coming out, and a lot of pianists are obsessed. It's like it's all muscles, right? It's finger strength, and it's like she was like, no, it's all about skeleton, bones that we're playing the piano with, right? Because when you think about it, I think really understanding the hand, like the anatomy of the hand is like, it's like a lot of people think that the fingers really stop here. In fact, they go all the way down, and then you have these ligaments that are attaching, that are going all the way up the arm. Like, so that's one thing that I would encourage every pianist to do, or anybody who really plays, anybody with a body, is just start studying diagrams of anatomy and muscles, and like getting curious about the body from an experiential standpoint. Like, when I move this way, like what if I do this exercise with a smile? What if I do this exercise standing up, sitting down, squatting? What if I do it backwards? Like, all of these things, the body is meant to be inhabited, but then there are also these certain truths about the way the body is constructed, right? We call that body mapping. How are we conceiving of our just literally how our body is constructed, right? We have two bones in our arm, the radius and the ulna, and they work in certain ways. They don't move. Both of those bones don't move the same way, so just studying a diagram, right? Because all of these things, if somebody has an incorrect body map, they're going to lead to things like rotating the hand out. You see a lot of people playing the piano like that, right? Like, and so the wrist is literally, they call it ulnar deviation. So the wrist is like bent to one side, and the arm is not strong. Like, if you try to like basically like imagine that there's like a bar or a branch or something, that basically the strength lies in this bone here being connected all the way through the pinky, right? And the pinky is actually very strong when this is in alignment. If I have an incorrect body map, I'm thinking that the thumb is basically the fulcrum of everything. So the bone that's on the thumb side, then I'm going to be in ulnar deviation. So I'm going to be trying to use this bone as being the weight bearing side, the primary side, and then the pinky is super weak and disconnected. And all of that can come from a simple body mapping error, basically, or just a lack of awareness, right? Maybe nobody ever told us that, but we just assumed it. And then that's how you see people getting tendonitis. You see people having a hard time connecting to the instrument. You know, it's like it's hard enough to connect, you know, like there's enough work and getting out in terms of getting out of your own way to make music. We don't need to make it harder for ourselves by having an incorrect body map. So I think really getting curious about the body, really getting curious about the mechanics of playing the piano. There are a million method books out there, a million books of scales, exercises, people telling us, oh, you know, this is the right way to play the piano. The truth really lies in that process of self-discovery. And within the framework of certain truths about the body, being able to really decide what works for us, and like what helps us connect. Like maybe certain exercises that let's fly over the keys and play really fast, but then maybe we forgot about the weight of the arm and letting go, and like what that can do in terms of the connect, right? The heart connection. Like if you watch a drummer, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna crash the cymbal, or they're gonna like, you know, like hit the snare drum at the top of the chorus, right? Like at Elvin, the bomb that he drops on Witch Hunt at the top of the, I think it's the top of chorus on Wayne's solo. Can you imagine that having the same effect if he weren't letting go in the arm and he weren't connected through the heart, and like this thing of center to the periphery, like the music is coming out, gravity, all of this forward momentum that is really life. It's like the momentum of life itself, as Milford Graves talks about. Swing means I want to live until tomorrow. So we have, it's like all of these things. We can really look to drummers, other instrumentalists, people who, how do they use their body? How are they free? How are they connected? What does that mean? You know, like using the legs to support yourself. There was a Danilo Perez, who was also one of my teachers, was playing a concert. I think it may have been, it was somewhere up in New York, somewhere on the East Coast. And apparently the piano bench broke during the performance. While he was playing, the bench, one of the legs gave out on the bench, and he didn't even fall. He was supporting himself with his legs so much that, and there was all this energy going into the ground. The bench broke and he just kept playing, like he was unaffected by it. So I mean, what does that say? Stuff like that, you know.
That's deep, man. Because I know for trumpet and any instrument that like grounding is important, you know, and having that level or of connection with your feet, and then from there all the way up to the top of your body, like that's a connection in terms of your energy that, you know, you can harness. Like I feel like when I'm practicing, when I'm sitting down, that's two different type of practice compared to when I'm performing and I'm, you know, and I'm completely on my 2 feet and I'm postured a certain way and I'm using that of harnessing my energy. I kind of, when I'm going down like this sometimes, that's me getting all the energy and then bringing it up. It's crazy. But I don't know if that relates to, you know, the piano way of doing it, but it seems to me there's some grounding involved as well. So.
Oh, totally. I totally, yeah, I think it totally relates. Like any instrument, really, even singing, you know, which is Leslie. When it's singing, like, you know, singing and drumming, it all comes back to singing and drumming for me in terms of those those elemental, like purest forms of music. So we can really look to both drummers and singers for, you know, kind of like the secret, or like what maybe have they figured out that could help us in our instrument, you know, primary instrument.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, this
But,
such a, yeah.
What's interesting is, you know, I would like to know from you, who are some of those musicians, like how you mentioned in terms of like a recording reference of like piano players for you that you either influenced by, or you feel like what you were talking about earlier about the lightness and, you know, and that kind of feeling of the music coming from inside. Who are some musicians would you, you know, or what reference recording would you give us to hear right now?
For piano sound, I'd say recently one of my biggest influences for piano sound has been Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
He's amazing, man. Yeah, Cuba.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's a solo piano record he did called Faye. And I remember when I heard that, the chills that it gave me, because it was like, it really was the closest thing to somebody singing on the piano that maybe I've heard, you know, and it was almost like, it's almost one of those moments when it's a sound that you were hearing, you almost knew was possible, and you kind of had to hear somebody actualize that sound to be like, oh wow, that actually is possible. Then immediately it unlocks something, because you hear the manifestation of that aesthetic and that level of connection. I think, I mean, Herbie has always been somebody for me who, expansiveness of his sound, and yeah, like I remember, like we were talking the other day about how big is the room? How big is the, you know, the room the size of the whole world? I really feel that way about Herbie, like the way that the sound of the piano, it goes. That's the other thing I've been thinking about a lot, is the sound of the piano, like the directionality of it, in a way. Like you have so many directions going at once. So you have the hammers coming up to hit the string, right? And then as soon as they hit the string, they don't stay on the string, they retract. But then that motion is actually opposite in the direction that the force is going into the key, which is down. But we're actually moving horizontally, and this is what Sophia would talk about. So we're moving horizontally, and our arm rotates. There are all these kinds of motions. It goes in and there. There's flexion, extension, rotation, and then there's this motion of the upper arm. There's this motion of the body, and so and then you look at the way the piano is shaped, right? A grand piano, the diagonal of the we call it the lid to the piano. There's got to be a better name for it. Funneling the sound horizontally outward. So it's taking the sound, the string is resonating up, but then the sound is moving horizontally, and it's also moving, it's all around the room. So reflection of the sound in the room, there's motion going down, there's a rebound. There are all of these directions. So what does it mean to balance your sound in the midst of all of that, you know? there's a certain way of playing a drum when, like, if somebody's playing like with mallets on a drum, there's a certain way, there's a certain like sweet spot. They're gonna hit the drum, and the stick is there's gonna be a rebound, and the drum itself is gonna resonate. The room is going to resonate. Their body is even gonna resonate. Like, there's this sweet spot of where that drum wants to speak. And it really is effortless. If you watch a great timbale player, or you watch Milford Graves, or you watch Elvin Jones or Art Blakey, there's a certain like understanding of how you get the drum to speak and what that sweet spot is. The same thing is going to be true on the piano. If you play one note, there's a way to play that one note that is, all of those things are kind of aligned, right? So you're going to get even the feeling of the resonance in the key. People don't talk about that a lot, but I think it's really important. Like, so many people are practicing on keyboards, but you could be missing out on this feeling of actually that string resonating through the key, the shell of the piano, the soundboard in the keys. It's like a feedback mechanism for you to really gauge whether you're finding that sweet spot or not, you know? And so you don't, when you hit a drum, you don't leave the stick on the drum. There's a equal and opposite reaction. So there's like a so you got to find the sweet spot on the piano, where you can really make one note speak, right? And it's not this very muscle oriented down motion that so many people have. It's become such a part of modern piano playing, and it's really actually, Fred Hirsch would always say, when you find your embouchure on the piano, when you really find that way of playing that has this sense of ease in it, and connection through the whole body, and really like the freedom that you would find hitting a drums, like playing a drum set, then a lot of things actually take care of themselves. A lot of things that people are shedding for hours and hours might actually take care of themselves, because there's a certain intelligence within the body, and a certain ability, human ability, to make music that if you get out of your own way, you might be surprised how certain things actually sort themselves out. I think, yeah, in terms of sound influences, like Mulgrew is another one. Mulgrew Miller. Bill Evans was one of the first pianists who really got me. What I was just listening on repeat, you know, just because there was something about the beauty of the sound that it was healing to me, actually, you know. That's what the piano can be. The piano can be, there's this incredibly wide range of sound for healing to occur. So finding those resonances in the piano, in the experience of playing the piano, is actually healing for your nervous system, healing for your body. And that's for me, you know, it's like, it really comes back to sound so much of the time, because you could play the hippest thing known to humankind, and if the sound is not connected, and you're forcing the sound, and it's not in tune with you, with the piano, with the room, then it's just going to fall flat. It's like a belly flop, you know, and it's not going to feel good to play. It's not going to feel good to listen to. Like if it feels good to play, there's a good chance it's going to feel good for somebody to listen to. That's what I've found. And like, does it actually feel good to play, or does it just feel good in this kind of like super out of control sense, you know?
I love that, man, because we had a recent talk with Jazzbone PT, and he was talking about how sometimes some of the, I guess, the sounds that resonate with us. Okay, I'm saying it, I'm giving it too quick, but the sound that we do tend to are attracted to are vibrations that resonate, right? And you know, and it's like there's no force. If you're forcing something, it seems to not be something that resonates as well. And if you're maybe dampening something, it seems to be the two extremes of which those things can happen. So you can either be dampening or you can be forcing something. And the only way you can get that true resonance is to just push through the middle point, or the center point, as people like to think about it. And I think maybe that connects to the feeling that you're talking about, because when I'm playing, if I'm hitting the center point at all times, I'm able to actually be a lot more productive compared to if I'm forcing things, compared to if I'm dampening things. I'm probably going to get tired quicker. I'm probably not going to be able to get as much as I want out of the trumpet by, you know, either forcing anything or, and you look at it even in a social aspect, right? You know, just the energy that does, or the good vibrations that, you know, that does well is the ones that's not necessarily forced, or the ones that are not really dampened. It's the ones that, you know, are just truly just within, you know, the current moment and state. And you know, I think there's something to be said about that in life too, like how you talk about if it doesn't feel good, you know, like you can tell how something is going to sound just by the way it feels. So I think the feeling and the sound is really connected.
Yeah. Oh, I'm totally with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that was really interesting what you said about Gonzalo, man. I was trying to see, do you know which song you think is a perfect example for us to hear? Like, real quick?
Yeah.
Because we have
there's
a broadcast. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. If you could pull it up,
Okay.
give you a title. It's called Joao, Joao. I think it's a piece he wrote for his son.
Joao. That's solo piano?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if it works. Oh, didn't find it. Haha. Joao, right?
Yeah, maybe
you should put the exact link. Like,
yeah, let me find it.
Because sometimes you can do P exclamation point P. Play. Joa.
It is on Spotify.
Oh, I found it.
That's I don't think that's the one. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's not the one I was trying to find.
Yeah. Unless if we could find it on YouTube or something. Cameron, do you have any ideas? But if not, that's okay. We can just keep that on reference and put that in the chat.
Or maybe share the screen and play it.
Ah.
Let me try that.
You want to share? You want to share yours?
Me?
Isaac?
Yeah, let me try. I gotta grant permission here. Is that working?
Oh, I can see.
Here we go. Should be Spotify. Did you hear anything?
No.
Hmm.
Apparently, we got a tip in the chat that if we do P exclamation point play with the exact link of the Spotify, it'll actually play it as well.
Perfect, perfect.
So can you try that, Isaac, since you have it on Spotify already? So just type in the chat P exclamation point play and then paste the link right next to it. No, play. You have to put P exclamation point play. Wow, I don't think it works. Well,
I can try it. I think now it will work. Oh, I need to resume it.
So resume.
Oh, I don't have permission.
Oh, okay, maybe I'll resume.
And then you should do like skip, I think.
That's
oh.
And then I'll try it on this end.
Just copy my text.
So do you put it all together or you space it out?
No, you should put a space after the P exclamation mark play.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Oh.
There we go.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to The Shed.live. We've got Given Jalen interviewing live Isaac Wilson on this wonderful piano panel. Thank you for listening. We're just sharing some music real quick, and so we don't get nothing, no problems. I just stopped it for a second for you guys, but we will resume shortly.
it's resonating with itself, right? Like the whole piano is really resonating in that way. And he was actually I learned recently that he was a classical percussion major in conservatory in Cuba, which I don't know, like, I think it just going back to all those things we were talking about when, with the parallels between the drums and the piano, sometimes it sounds like a guitar, a string instrument, the way he's playing. Just for me, his sound conception of sound is so clear, and so beautiful that it's like, it's undeniable what statement he's trying to make as an artist, just in terms of, you put him in a room with a piano, it feels like he's going to have what he needs,
Man, I love that. It was like you say, that last chord, and I was trying to figure out the form, and how you went through the whole thing. It was really beautiful, but that last chord, the touch and the way the way it feels is, I guess sometimes you don't think about the piano being something that, like, I guess, an instrument that can get those different layers of dynamics, like a horn player would, but it shows there to me, like, or it's very clear of how you can use it to be super, super, super effective, Yeah, I really would like to check that out and see what the form is on that, so I can, because he passed through it a couple of times. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's some free improvisations on that album that are really beautiful too. In terms of just him, you really feel like he's just making a sound, and then he's exploring, playing inside that sound. Kind of paint, like it's a very cliche term, but like painting, like really sculpting sound, like all these parallels to other art forms can help us sometimes,
I also noticed his eighth note feel. Like, it was very unique to him, in terms of, like, it has that punch to it. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, the way he plays his eighth note, it's very punchy, but it's not like what I'm used to hearing either when it comes to, like, that eighth note feel, where it's more, on top of the beat. It's very, if anything, it seems like that's where you can see his rhythmic side come in terms of him being from Cuba, and how
totally.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah, like the accents within the line, I think I was talking in the chat with Dora a little bit about this, just like in terms of, like, we're talking about, like, music of Charlie Parker or Bud Powell. There are these accents within the line that are, you really feel like that note is jumping out, and that there's a bigger picture to the melody and the arc of the melody in terms of, like, landing points and, like, these kind of anchor, like if you had a boat that was leaving for a deserted island, and you could only choose like 25% of the most important notes to take from that melody, which notes would you take, and which notes would you be able to live without and still have the integrity and the feeling and the structure of that melody,
That's a great concept, limiting yourself and trying to make more out of less.
Absolutely.
Man, I would like to even take this further. I know I asked you so many questions in the beginning, so you couldn't have answered them all at once. But I think one of the topics I think we can then go into is about how do you integrate, these musicians that inspire you, number one, into your playing, and how do you, how to then become something authentic to you. And then the next thing would be, we had an amazing conversation last time about the breath and the nervous system, and how did that integrate into your overall playing, and like what did you notice change in your piano playing? Like, what were some of the noticeable differences? So first, I would like to hear, like, how do you integrate your, people that inspire you on the piano into your playing?
I think, there's some days when it feels hard enough to be inspired to practice, to even like, I find that like those people whose sound is just healing for me, that I know, like, whether that's, and that may not even be a piano player, but all those people I mentioned are examples of, of sound that's healing. But putting something on, like just letting inspiration arrive from the beauty of that sound, like almost like remembering that it's possible to make a sound that's that beautiful, and this idea that maybe the beauty is out there, maybe the beauty is not only within me or within that person whose inspiration I'm seeking, or within any one of us. Maybe that there's this something that we're trying to, like it gets down to the poetry of the music in the first place, like allowing, like hearing that, like when I hear that Gonzalo recording, it makes me want to play. It makes me want to play the piano, not in a way that's like, check out what I can do, let me validate myself and my ability, but it makes me, it's something much more elemental and primal than that, which is, it makes me want to play a sound on the piano, which is like the same impulse that maybe like a 2-year-old would have. This feeling of, yes, really like beauty, it's all possible, like feeling of possibility. It's really what I'm trying to cultivate at all times, whether I'm playing a solo piano set or I'm playing with other people, or I'm just walking around. Like I want to cultivate the feeling of possibility, of anything is possible, and the creativity comes from that. So in terms of integrating, like I've transcribed some, but I've never I feel like I've transcribed horn players as much as piano players, because for me, the sound, I'm not going to get the sound from writing the notes down on a page. It's not so much about the what of the notes when it comes to the studying piano players. It's more about the how for me. And so I think there was a specific, I remember when it comes to all these different approaches, because it gets down to the technique also. So I studied with Fred Hirsch for 4 years, and he has a very specific approach to playing the piano. I went and I studied with Danilo Perez for a year, and he has a very specific technical approach to playing the piano. Both of their approaches lead to this feeling of possibility, but they don't necessarily, like the core, the fundamental concepts, a lot of them are the same in terms of playing the piano with the whole body, and this idea of it being a percussion instrument, and the breath, the emotional rhythm, and getting to a feeling of possibility, discovery. Like they agree on so much, but in terms of the articulation of every note and the overall concept of sound and dynamics of the instrument, they're quite different. So there were a few years when I felt like I was really kind of I don't want to say torn between these two approaches, but I could see them kind of struggling to work themselves out, like because the second you start thinking about something, that's when the cognitive dissonance starts to appear, right? It's fine if it's like 2 a.m. and I walk over to the instrument and I'm just playing, right? And I'm just having a good time, or I just feel like I want to play. But it's when you sit down to practice that all of those kind of, well, this person says this person says that, those disagreements start to rear their heads. And then it's really our responsibility to deal with those. So I remember feeling like, there was one summer when I was just trying to make sense. I was like, well, I found this way of playing the piano when I was studying with Fred that felt very natural to me, and beautiful to me. But now my eyes have also been opened to this other way of playing the piano. I mean, Danilo has such an incredible sound as well, and a full and expansive sound, and a way of translating the drums to the piano, that it's like, how am I supposed to go back to just doing, there is no the way things were before. It's all, this is now a part of who I am and how I hear music. So I think we're all gonna encounter, especially those of us, who are still in the like going to school phase of our journey, and study, having different regular teachers who we see, that there are going to be a lot of things that are contradictions along the way. And as Danilo used to say, the question is the answer. Like the what the hell moment of the contradiction, like feeling lost, like that, following that feeling and trying to make sense of that is where the answers are going to be found, and then the clarity is going to be found, and it's like, now I feel like I've done a much better job at synthesizing both of those approaches into something that works, and it feels more now than ever like I'm just playing the piano. But that, I don't think that would have been possible right out of school, especially getting like so many different opinions, and like I was taking classical piano lessons at the time too, at New England Conservatory. So I was like with a completely different approach, that was equally beautiful, but it was just like, there needs to be a period of there need to be many days, I'll say, of walking over to the piano and feeling like, oh, I have no idea how to play the piano. I feel like I'm starting over. Like that is going to be, I don't know if you felt that way about the trumpet ever, but it's like that feeling of I don't know what I'm doing at all is such a vital part of the process.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I do think that, like, I guess my brother was telling me, he said something real deep the other day. When you're in something and you're in it and you're going at it, I think that's like reminiscent of us, in the shed and getting the music together and being at it for years and years and years. You kind of then create this outlook on it that's so close to what you're doing, where the minute you actually take a step back and actually look at it, like take a few steps back and just look at it from a different point of view, then that gives you something else to add to it. And it doesn't mean that all this work you was doing, like being in that whole process, wasn't worth it, but it just means that sometimes throughout all that work, you must take time to also, Just look back and get a different perception of what you're doing. That way you get to even expand on what you're doing just on a deeper level, you know. So I do think that it's that balance too, you know, of being in it and then also being able to go out of it as well, you know. And I think that you can manage that by a weekly kind of thing. You can have like a day out of the week that you take to, like, you know, do an activity that's not music related, you know. Do something that, you know, find a hobby, right? And I think sometimes those things would actually help going back to the music and making the music a lot more meaningful, you know, because sometimes it's not a shedding problem, right? I think it's more of a mindset problem, or like maybe say something mental, you know, maybe you need a different perspective, you know. I like to call it a headspace. I think that's even a lot closer to what I'm looking for. So a headspace, you know, and figuring out if you can, you know, shift your headspace, that will then give you different, you know, perspectives to come into the music with. And, you know, that has nothing to do with actively shedding and anything like that, you know. It just has something to do with life experiences and going through life. And I think that would lead you to a place where, you know, you have less, you know, maybe those feelings of like, man, I'm doing this for all these hours and I'm not, you know, why is it not working out the way I wanted to? Why am I not getting the answers that I'm looking for? You know, and I had that moment for myself and find that I just found a hobby, you know, and it helped. And I was, you know, getting some trumpet things done during the early part of the day, but just focusing on actually doing that hobby helped my music. You know?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, to answer your other question, that's pretty much it, you know, like that's like, for me, it's like, no amount of breath work or any exercise, breathing exercise, meditation in the world really is gonna, if my headspace is off because I haven't cultivated anything else in my life that I'm passionate about, or found a way to relate to life outside of the piano or music, no amount of that self-help and, you know, healing arts, as they're called to some people, like none of that is gonna, I'm still gonna be running into the same roadblock, you know. So I think it's so important what you said, having other things outside of, because it's all the shed, but also there is life outside of the shed, you know, like when it comes to the specific instrument that you play, like, or even it's like I've been hanging out with people and it's like we'll be at a restaurant and then they can't stop tapping the same 5/4 thing that they were practicing, and I'm like, well, I get it, we got to be practicing it all the time, but actually the brain, you're actually wiring your brain when you're away from the instrument too, and when you're not working on that thing, you're giving those neurons a chance to actually, you know, form those connections and do the work for you. So there's an element of non-doing, and there's an element of enjoying life and letting go that is equally a part of it.
Yeah, man, that's beautifully said. And you know, and that's what we're trying to do. It's about getting in the shed, but it's called shed for a reason, because, you know, when you get out of the shed, you know, there's life. You know, Charlie Parker went into the shed and he left and started making records and started, you know, playing on the scene and just showing people, you know, all the work he was putting in. You know what I mean? So it's I think it's, if anything, it's there for us to realize that we must always stay at peak levels, you know. But it's not all and be all, right? There's more to life, and that's naturally gonna make everything else enrich. I guess it's gonna enrich everything else, you know. I see that we're gonna probably end it pretty soon, man. Isaac, I just want to say thank you again, bro. You always come with so many great points, and just, man, honestly, I'm sure everybody in here can second that. I know Doors a piano player. I know he might want to also ask you some things probably after this event is over. You know, feel free to stay around. Also, we have somebody new. Do you mind unmuting a little bit for a quick second? Arcalox. Is that your name? I'm trying to.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm fine.
Is the name Arca?
It's not my actual name. Maybe I can change my nickname here. My name is Itai.
That's cool.
I'm from Israel as well.
Itai.
I know Dor.
Hey, Ty, מה קורה?
כל טוב.
He's a
Good,
really
man.
great
Thank you.
pianist.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
good to have you here. Oh, you play the piano. Great.
Amazing, man. Well, man, that's great. So is this his first date, Dor?
Yeah, I
Is it
think
your first?
so.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the shed, man.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of events like this happening all throughout the week. So later today we have Bobby Watson, and then we also have, like, if you just keep browsing on this platform, you'll find a lot of information that we've been circulating throughout the time we've started. You know, it's literally, we have many commitment levels. You know, to get in the shed. I'm sure Dora can talk to you a little bit about that. But man, I'm happy to see that you're here. You can clearly see what we're talking about. You can see how the conversations are. You know, it's very, you know, laid back, but we're trying to give people information that we think can truly be helpful. And so, yeah, stick around for our next event, man. And you know, if you like what you're checking out here, and I'm sure, you know, Dora can connect you with more information.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Great.
Perfect. Man, I just want to say thank y'all once again, man, for being here. You know, this was a great conversation. We'll obviously gonna always have these in the archives for everybody that weren't able to make it. You know.
Yeah.
But thank y'all, and I'll see y'all
pleasure,
at 4. Thank you, Isaac. Yeah. Man. See y'all at
Yeah.
4 for
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, Leslie.
All right, bro.
All right, take care. Yeah. So
All right, everybody. All righty, there we go. There we have it. Fantastic session with our very own Gifton Jalen and pianist Isaac Wilson, giving the rundown on this beautiful piano panel. Great job, gentlemen. And for those of you who want to tune in next for that 4 p.m. session, we got the great Bobby Watson tuning in. You guys, in order to view that, you will have to be in our Discord. The links are in the chat if you guys are watching on YouTube and Twitch. Again, that starts at 4 p.m. EST, so it's going to be a beautiful interview and Q&A with Bobby Watson. Until then, we will see you guys in just a second. Till next time, peace.